is to tell you about our MURP program and to also talk about our application process, which is coming up. So some of you guys might be considering graduate school. So even if you're just thinking about the MURP, trying to figure out what it is, even if you might end up eventually applying to a different program, hopefully today will be helpful to you, because I'm going to be talking about, at least from our perspective, how do we evaluate applications? What are the different parts? What is our process? I've been on the admissions committee for several years, since I've been on the faculty here, well, 9 years actually. And so I have a good sense of what we are looking for, but the pointers here might help you think about your application anywhere. So no matter what, we want you to find, if graduate school is for you, you got to kind of figure that out, but also to find the program that's the right fit for you. So, so hopefully you can get something out of this that's useful no matter which direction you're headed. So I'll tell you a little bit about our program and planning to kind of calibrate you. So I know some of you are taking classes from some of our faculty on campus here. You might have a sense of what is urban studies, but also planning a little bit. But I just want to touch base to kind of establish that first. But this slide is showing one of the main themes of our MURP program, which is developing equitable, sustainable, empowered communities. So that theme builds through a lot of our courses, even the faculty research, which sometimes you hear about in class, but really our MURP program is a professional program. People are geared towards gaining skills and knowledge and a breadth that employers will be looking for in 2 years when you complete the program, as well as connecting people with internships. But first, what is planning? And here's a definition from the American Planning Association, which is a major professional organization of planners nationwide, but we also have an OC chapter, so an Orange County chapter, and it happens to be that one of our alumni is the president of the OC chapter of the American Planning Association, which is great. And this quarter, he's teaching a course for us. So you see how we try to keep connections to our alums, but also they are connected to the planning profession. So this is one definition for the American Planning Association, and I think it works well. Planning is a dynamic profession that works to improve the welfare of people and their communities by creating a more convenient, equitable, healthful, efficient, and attractive places for present and future generations. So it's pretty, you can see planning is aspirational, right? We're not thinking only about the now, we're thinking about the future, but we're thinking about the places that people live in. And these images were in the New York Times when they were highlighting the transformation that's happening in Orange County, and specifically Santa Ana, that Orange County is a very exciting place to be a planner, to learn about planning in terms of our local communities, but also the initiatives from the community organization side, as well as the cities and the planning departments trying to understand the problems we're facing, but as well as what are some strategies that we need to be put in place now to continue to build on strengths of existing communities, but also improve them in some significant ways. So Orange County, great place to do this, to be a planner. Here's another quote. I think it's illustrative of what we do. Good planning helps create communities that offer better choices for where and how we live. Again, a picture from Santa Ana, but also some other diversity in Little Saigon here in Orange County. What do planners do? That's one thing I ask myself when I'm like, what is the right profession for me? And I had to really think about what are the daily activities that energize me, that I want to spend time doing. And so these are some things that planners do in the professional world. And you also do a lot in our program too. So research, design, develop programs, lead public processes or public decision-making processes about investments, about plans, about local initiatives, affect social change, perform technical analyses, right? So we have to be able to justify and show what are the potential costs, what are the potential benefits, how do they look, and what are the resources that are needed for these programs. Also planners manage, and as well as educate. So I would see planning attracted me. You get to do a lot of different things. You can do the technical side of the analysis, which I find really intriguing, as well as the interaction. You get to make the analysis relevant to people and places. So, and those are some core skills that our MURP program fosters. It's not something that comes intuitively to all of us, and it's something what we call professional development. Like, it's the how do you do these things. It's not just how do you work in Excel, how do you run or go through say a problem set in microeconomics or stats, or how do you talk about or write a history of theory plan or theory paper but it's also professional development. How do you apply the concepts from the classrooms, the knowledge from the classrooms to real places? These are some areas. It's very common that our students, our MURP students, but also when they get into the profession, they work in one or more areas of specialization. Planning is very interdisciplinary, so you have to know different aspects. Sometimes you just have exposure, you can speak their language, but then sometimes you're the one that is real integral to carrying out these different areas of planning. So areas of specialization in the field include land use and infrastructure, transportation planning, housing. There's a big focus on new development in Orange County, but also how do we have affordable housing? It's a big challenge in Orange County. Commercial and real estate development, environmental regulations and planning, community development, social service delivery, design and built environment, historic preservation. And so the great thing about a planning program, about our planning program, is all the other students in your class are going to be interested in all of these things. And so even in my class, I'm talking about transportation and a new streetcar line that's planned for Santa Ana. We have folks that have a history background or a design background, or they come from more sociology as their undergrad, or even art. So a variety of, but everybody is coming to these problems in a very interdisciplinary way, and it's amazing all the different questions that emerge, or all the different perspectives that emerge, because other people across the room hadn't even thought about it that way. So it's great. That's one reason I like planning. You have those conversations, but also that it's worth mentioning, and I started to mention this, but Irvine, our campus specifically, is a great place to study planning. It was a planning experiment. That this map here is showing the land of the Irvine company. The Irvine Ranch at the time had ownership of the land from the mountains all the way to the coast. And this was in the 1950s or 60s. And this is William Pereira. And he was the architect that designed Irvine and campus. And so the mission they had and they took up was they saw development, just leapfrog development, what you might call sprawl or unconnected kind of cities and settlements going along the freeways and marching was what they called it, all the way down towards Irvine. And this was an initiative to do a master planned community, that we have the space. Let's think about Irvine and the different cities that came, what was built out of the Irvine Ranch as holistic. How can we have more integrated communities developed around a village concept so that you could balance residential needs with the garden type of city, lots of green space and connections and bike paths, as well as keeping the destinations closer. So in terms of job opportunities, areas for recreation and shopping, et cetera. So they saw this, and that's how we got the cover of Time magazine as a great innovation in planning, that we didn't have to have developers just doing these leapfrog developments out and further out, but that you could think about cities holistically. And it's something we talk about in our classes. There's some things that work really well about Irvine. It doesn't work for everyone, and that's part of the great discussion that we have in class. So I want to share my thoughts on why the UCI MURP program, right? What are some characteristics of our program that are good for you to know if you're going to consider applying? So our students develop some of our goals. Our students develop the knowledge and technical, communicative, and professional skills that enhance planning practice. These are some of the values that we organize our program around. We educate students to understand complex urban challenges across multiple spatial fields. We embrace the core planning values of sustainability and inclusiveness, as well as we prepare students to play a significant role in creating a desirable future by confronting the complex physical and social challenges. So those are the values, and we come at it from many different perspectives and angles, not just in the classroom, the relationships of students with our alumni who are out in the field or practicing planners, some of the skills-based courses that we have. So our program is a professional education, and we see professional results. There's a direct connection, and we have really a pipeline, you could say. So it's a 2-year full-time professional program, and we're accredited by the Planning Accreditation Board. This is really important to us. This is a national accreditation board. Actually, they do international programs as well. And it has some core standards. What is the core knowledge that we must impart and the core skills in order to be accredited and have a strong planning education that is well-rounded? And it's a pretty high bar, and we happen to be now the only accredited program in Orange County and also San Diego County So that's a big deal, and that allows us to really contribute and connect with our local communities in that way. It turns out that the employment rate of our graduates is consistently strong, and because we are accredited by the Planning Accreditation Board, we keep track of this really closely every year. And so of the students that we are able to stay in contact with, so that's over about 85 or higher percent, that 100% are employed right now. So after 6 months, I think it is, after graduation, is that the statistic?
1 year. Within 1 year.
Within 1 year of graduation of our program, 100% are employed, and I believe it's in a planning. So that's the official term. So we're really proud of that. And one way that happens is that our students are very successful in networking among themselves. Our first year students talking to the ones that are second year students who are going to graduate, but about connections with communities and internships that are out there. And we have connections with folks in cities, in private firms, in community organizations who kind of funnel internship opportunities to us. So that's an important part of our program. But it's also, when you think about the job market, this is a summary statistic that's really important to us, that in this region, we are among the top paying metro areas in the nation for urban and regional planning. So we are ranked number 3 in the nation as a metro area that is top paying for the planning position. So I think that's great as you think about your future and brainstorm where you want to head. Our MURP curriculum, so it is a 2-year curriculum. And it's paced in order to give everyone a solid foundation, and this is what we're known for. And so whenever an employer gets a student from our program, they know this is a well-rounded education, that they have a lot of breadth. And so really in the first year, this is when most students will take, and we encourage first-year students to take their core courses, because it gives you the breadth of planning knowledge about the field. So we talk about the history of urban planning. Why did this field even emerge? What are the different periods of planning? How did our goals change over time? What are the challenges we're trying to address? But also there's a course about planning theory. It allows our students to really dive into questions about why are we trying to intervene in cities? Why do we have these institutions that are called kind of planning departments that are trying to do good things? What is our relationship when we go out? Are we imposing a vision of technical experts, or are we collaborating to build that together? So there's a lot of theoretical parts of planning that go into that class. There's also a quantitative analysis for planners course, microeconomics for planners, and these 2 courses give a certain amount of technical knowledge that every student graduating will have, and it's geared towards a wide range of students from different backgrounds. So it's not that you have to have a microeconomics course as an undergrad, or you have to be a stats expert when you come in. We're not looking for that, because these courses are geared to provide everyone kind of this baseline knowledge that a planner needs, and to go and to be confident in the future whenever they get an economics report and they really need to think about what does that mean for their city. They have enough language or knowledge about microeconomics to look through it and like to know the terminology, to kind of know the mindset of an economist, and to be able to translate that for their plans. So this is kind of like the basic knowledge that planners need and basic skills. Also, we have a plan development and communication course, which is core. It's required. And that is very centrally professional development. How do you look at a particular problem? How do you gather data around that? But then how do you communicate what the data is saying to a larger public? And so this is the core to kind of the planning process. How do you formulate plans? How do you communicate plans? So we hear a lot of positive things about that class. So even though in the first year, students are taking a lot of their core courses, even the first year, especially in the second year, students get to take a variety of electives, and this allows students to kind of specialize when I listed those specializations before. So some course electives, I'll flip over here, include environmental planning and economics, site planning, things such as community engagement. There's some environmental ones, transportation planning, urban labor markets, and sustainable cities. So there's a wide variety. These are common ones. Of course, we might have 2 in 1 year, for instance, sustainable kind of focused courses. So it varies, and we try to offer kind of a rich set of, both years in the program, a rich set of variety of courses. I will say here at the bottom, I skipped over this too quickly, is students can choose. There's another core elective course, so we have 2 law courses that are geared towards planners that we teach. So it's not that we're asking our students to go into the law school. These are planning law courses. One is around environmental law, one is around development law. Also, there's several courses that you could choose from. You have a lot of flexibility here to satisfy our urban settlements requirements. How are cities laid out geographically and spatially, and why are they laid out the way they are, as well as planning methods. You can choose an additional planning method course. A big part of our program is the capstone. So if the first year is building kind of these core broad skills, you really get to apply them in a professional way in the second year. And here's an example of we're going to talk about two of the most popular capstones, which happens to be all of our students are enrolled in this year. This is a poster from one of our capstones. It's called the Planning Practicum. This is a 2-quarter course. Starts in the fall, it continues into the winter, and it culminates with a presentation of the Practicum projects in the end of winter. And this course is run by a planning practitioner, someone whose day job is all about planning and is doing this in the field and has doing it in the field, so very much embedded in the profession. And these are group projects. So these are that students are matched with a city. In this case, Costa Mesa came as a partner on with this course, and they said, here's some areas of the cities that we really need some help in understanding and creating a vision for. What should we be doing in these areas to support local communities, but to help business, to make them more walkable? They had a lot of priorities. And so the group projects aligned with some of those goals, and they studied the principles of planning that applied. They had guest speakers come and help them know how to look at these different issues. And they went into the field and they did the analysis and led the analysis and came back with a whole report. This is just the poster, a set of priorities and visions for, this is East Side Costa Mesa. The other is the professional report. And so second year students pick from these two options. The professional report is an independent project. The practicum is group, very much like real world planning, but this is geared towards an individual project. Each student has one client they're working for, and over a 2-quarter sequence, same quarters, the winter of their fall of their second year, winter of their second year, are developing a professional report. And students can gravitate to a variety of clients and will identify a research project with that client that will help further their efforts or their the work that they're doing. And here you see one example that our students worked with the Orange County Food Access Coalition and studied exploring strategies for starting a youth-driven food policy advocacy group in Orange County. So really talking to a lot of the different stakeholders, looking for some models nationwide for this type of program, and putting together an assessment plan, but also kind of a vision for what that could be in Orange County. And so that's one example. She partnered with this project. We have a class in the fall that leads this, and then PR, what we call professional report, PR students work in the second quarter of their project with an individual faculty member that can help give one-on-one mentorship for this project. And they also culminate in a end of winter presentation day. So all of you can be invited. I hope we'll have your emails and contacts that we can send out and advertise that day. So anyone from campus is welcome to come see. We call it our Capstone Day, our Capstone Project Day. It's great to meet people. And if you are thinking about planning, it's after the deadline for applications, but you can come and really kind of think about is this and what would it look like if you came to UCI. Depending on your goals, we have some other possibilities. We have a concurrent degree program, just so you know, with civil engineering. So you can get a degree, a master's degree in civil engineering and MURP, and they have 2 tracks for the civil engineering side, which is transportation or water. And if you're interested in that, the process would be you apply to both programs. You apply for the civil engineering side, you apply for the MURP program. You get admitted to our normal processes, but then you can be a concurrent degree student. So if you have questions, you can ask me about that. Also, we have a JD MURP degree. So you get a law degree and you get a MURP degree, and you have a chance to really integrate them to some degree. We have international study and research opportunities. In the second year students, there's generally 2 to 3 that study abroad for fall quarter. That's a great program called NURIS, as well as we have research and engagement centers, whether that be UCI Water or the Blum Center for Poverty Elimination, Metropolitan Futures Initiative, and UCI Engage. So these are centers that do direct community impact work and are led by one of our different faculty. So they get integrated into our program. But to tell you a little bit more about kind of life if you're a student here, some of you are UCI students, you might know campus, but what is it like to be a student in our program. So our students consistently tell us they make really good connections, but they also feel connected, that the students going through the program at the same time become a support group for each other. But they also, as they graduate into the real world, those are the folks that they're going to be seeing at public hearings and meetings and collaborating a city with the regional government or the county. So they're networks into the future. But in terms of the student life, one thing that we are very proud about is that we can call it our optimal student cohort size, is that we keep our cohort small compared to places like USC or UCLA. And we hear actually some of our students who have gone to the UCLA program, it was an undergrad who went there, and she was emailing me back that she was just having a hard time just even getting 5 minutes with a faculty member. And that's not really our model here, that our model is that we keep it relatively small so that students tell us in our program that they have more time engaging with faculty, thinking about these issues, getting mentorship through some of the courses. And so that's something that's a big plus, I feel. That's what students have told me about our program, having time and access to faculty. We also have student organizations. So we have our Urban Planning Students Association, as well as we have a UCI chapter of OC, Association of Environmental Professionals, AEP. So these are two student organizations that do focus on professional development, but they also provide a lot of leadership. And they have a venue of how students connect with me as program director. They connect with our faculty, and how they often bring in speakers. They have events. Sometimes they do the social events and kind of lead that so people can stay connected and not just see each other in class or during class project meetings and things like that. So there's a lot of different varieties and support for students in our program. And one thing we're proud of is that we're ranked number 8 of all of the planning programs in the nation who are PAB accredited, number 8 nationally for diversity of the student body. We, as a campus, have embraced, have inclusive values. We embrace diversity. Our record with first-generation students is really strong. And so that feeds also into our program. So we're feeling really proud of our diverse student body. It enriches everything we do. So it's not just economic and racial and ethnic diversity. We have a diversity also in the range of fields people are going from. You know, which parts of urban areas or cities they are from. And so it's a lot of diversity from all different angles, and we celebrate it. So that's something that is a real strength. Professional engagement. Our planning alumni chapter has a mentorship program, as well as that helps support professional skill building. So the picture here is our mentorship program, where it's run by our alums. They come back and they run it. These are people that are professionals in the field, but they come back to support our students. Our students get matched, kind of a mixer where they get matched with a planning professional who is in the field working, and that's going to be their mentor for the year. And they get to meet with that person. They go to their place of work. They can have lunch. And this is a person in the first year. If you come here, you could be a part of the program and you can pick their brain. It's like, what should I be doing? I like environmental something, but I'm not sure what yet. Should I also like look at development? So students have a lot of questions, and these are people who are mentors who've been there before. They've been where you have been, and they can help you kind of maneuver. How do you position yourself so in your second year, you feel confident at looking for internships? Right? Or which course should you take? You want to do development? Is there a business school course I should take? But also in the field, how do you prepare? How do you network? Those types of things. Some aspects of professional development that we build into our program are skill-based course elective options, guest lectures and workshops, planning a career fair. That's a really big deal where employers come here, sometimes in this room, and are around the room are students dressed in their professional best with resumes, and they go around and they're networking and talking. And I've heard stories of maybe a firm didn't have that position that day, but 2 months later they had the card from our student and that person got called and they got the job. And then sometimes they do have jobs they're interviewing for right there for either graduating students or maybe interns. And so it's just really a nice event where connections are made. It's exciting. Also, our students go out on site visits. So when we do have firms or agencies who want to host our students, they go out to the field and learn about different operations, whether that be kind of a private engineering firm that has planning contracts. We had folks go out to Latino Health Access in Santa Ana and to learn about all of their initiatives around healthy planning and active kind of living. And so putting people in the field, and that's done through some of these professional development outlets. Job shadowing, we had some alums who worked for a firm and said, let's just have a job shadowing day where the MURP students just come and follow us, you know, in whatever they're doing. And you're like real time, not sitting and having coffee and them telling you what they're doing. They're actually showing you all day long in your shadow. So these are some innovative approaches that our students came up with, that our alums proposed to us. Small group discussions, certainly among with alums and professionals, internships, and job posting. So those types of networks that I was talking about, as well as support for independent kind of career development activities, a variety of resources that we make available to our students. In terms of costs, I know that is on your mind, so I'm just putting this up there. This is all on the web as well, in terms of the cost for California residents or out-of-state residents. We have, what you'll see is if you do pull up the web page, there's something called a professional development, PDST, student tuition, and that is typical and standard in the UC system for professional programs. And that money that is paid goes directly into our program to support a lot of those professional development activities we were talking about. So we're able to bring in professionals and practitioners to teach courses. We're able to put some funding behind the alumni programs and networking and a lot of the different workshops. So if you're wondering, like one program that's not a professional program and then our program, just so you know, that's built into this number. Also, it's important to know, there's also funding sources. So if the numbers look daunting, don't let that slow you down from applying. That we do have department merit-based and diversity fellowships. Our admissions committee kicks in these considerations right away when we're going through the admissions process. And we are looking for, and I could probably talk about that a little bit more, but in our admissions, we look for people who are strong students, right, who have a strong record, and we just really see them, they're going to contribute a great amount to planning one day. And so we want to invest in their potential and make this possible, but also through the personal statement and the personal history statement, which I'll talk about later, we get to learn about people. If you're applying, we'll get a sense of who you are, where you're coming from, and we'll get a sense of if financial need is in something that you're concerned about. And so that's something that even without asking, just kind of building who you are and any kind of concerns or needs you have into your statement, we will be kind of already looking for funding opportunities at that stage, just to let you know. But you should never omit looking at campus-wide graduate division fellowships and grants. Also, there are need-based kind of financial aid, grants, loans, external scholarships, fellowships, and grants. So definitely, first think about applying. Don't let that slow you down, issues of cost. But once you're applying and you're thinking about, is this going to be feasible, you need to start looking at some of the variety of options. I do want to say that when there is a professional fee that was part of the cost up there, and built in there is a requirement for to give some of that back in financial aid. So just so you know, that's somewhat built into our process and system. The admissions process. So this is a lot of what I wanted to talk to you about today, because I want to get down to the nuts and bolts of what we're looking for and what you should think about when you're calibrating if you want to apply, and or what do you want to say about yourself when you are applying. We use a holistic approach. There's not one metric we look at that's going to just get you in the door if you have the score. It's not our approach at all. It's a holistic approach. We look at a variety of different sets of information that you'll be required to submit. And here's a list, but it's worth kind of going over. That we consider, certainly you have to have a bachelor's degree to be admitted. You need to complete that. But in terms of the degrees and the backgrounds, we look for a variety of backgrounds. It strengthens our program. And people want to come to us for that professional direction. They maybe want to take that step to refine their skills if they're planners, but they might be, like I said, from arts or history or design, and they really want to take that next professional development step. So a wide range of disciplines is good. It's something that we see as positive, as well as transcripts. What information do we get from them? We're looking at overall trajectory, and it's not that you don't need the highest GPA possible for all applicants. That's not what we're looking for. Certainly, high GPA is great, right? It's a plus. It's awesome. But we're also looking for a trajectory. Maybe some folks had a rough start in the beginning, or maybe there was a dip in the second year. Something happened. But we can see that in maybe the last year, the last couple years, even if there was a slow start, that there was a steady progression towards the type of evidence that they're a good student. That's what our admission committee is for. Graduate school is rigorous, but we want to know that this applicant when we admit them, is going to have the basic abilities to be a good student, the rigor of the schedule and the due dates and just everything it takes to have a strong kind of transcript. So GRE is a useful piece of information. I think it's worth saying that it's required for all applicants except domestic students with a GPA of 3.3 or above. So we don't require GREs from those domestic students with a 3.3 or above. So that's great news for some folks. Letters of reference are very useful for our admissions committee. They can come from both academics and professionals are welcome. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a bit. And two statements, a statement of purpose as well as a history, a personal history. So let me start on kind of the upper level transcripts and grades, like what's important. So grades and GPA, what are we looking for? We are looking for evidence that somewhere in there that there's going to be a demonstrated strength as a potential as a student. Grades and GPA provide us information on your performance on certain subjects, especially when your major was very different than our program. So if you had anthropology and maybe you didn't have a lot of technical, we might look to see if you do have a technical kind of course or maybe even a microeconomics course in your transcript, right? Just to see if, oh, I wonder how they would do in microeconomics. Oh, look, they had a B+, A-, A+ in this micro course, which I was like, okay, they'll do it. So it's kind of us looking for evidence to kind of check boxes to know if this person is not only a good fit, but are they likely to be successful in our program. Sometimes it is okay in your statements to explain periods of poor grades, a change of major, life demands and conflicts, but that's okay. And there's a way to do it where I hope that you can feel comfortable, right? So we don't need to, for instance, if somebody had a family crisis in the middle of their sophomore year, it's really okay if in a brief way, in a line or two or a phrase or two, you say something like, my grades in my sophomore year, I don't feel reflect my true potential as a student because my family had, you could say a family crisis or, a brief description. You don't have to go into the details because really, we don't want to ask you to divulge personal information, but it's okay to mention, and we're not going to look down on that at all. We actually want that context because we'll see the dip in grades and we'll be like, oh, that's odd. Or we see the overall GPA is really low and we're like, oh, that's odd. This is clearly a strong student. And we look and we see that dip and we're like, what happened? So, right, it's not, we just like to fill out the story. Feel free to do that. It's not looked negatively upon. What admissions committees are looking for from the GRE. This matters really more from our perspective if the grades or the GPA are poor. Grades, GPA are poor. We're looking for another piece of evidence that you can be a strong student, right? That you have some skills, some knowledge in order to be successful in our program. So this again is just one other piece of information. There's no one score that's going to get you in. So it's grades, transcripts, as well as GRE. This is particularly helpful. For instance, we'll be looking for the verbal score if English is not your first language, right? So for the many applicants who we haven't actually seen or met, and so we won't even have a sense as a baseline of their ability in English. So that's helpful. Also, good analytical scores are helpful if you had previous, like a few economics or math in your background, or if you're interested in a technically oriented element of the program, that score will just kind of show that you might be well aligned for those kinds of challenges. And the GRE, again, is part of, we're looking for the big pictures. So I'll just say it again. Your GRE can be stellar, but if your statement of purpose is not strong, you will likely not be admitted. GRE has to be one part of the whole package. So, letters of reference. They can really tip the balance of other parts of the file. Writing a good reference takes hours and multiple interactions. I'll be honest, we get lots of letters of request as a professor, request letters. And if I know the student, I'm going to take the time to put in there to really be thoughtful about, all right, who is the student? What have we talked about in our conversation? What kind of, I'll ask for their papers from my class. If I don't have them on file, I'll look at the papers. I'll think about how they did in their group project or what topic they were most interested in. And I put that into the letter, details. So when an admissions committee can see you know, I knew them, you know, if it says basically I knew them in their sophomore year, they performed very well, the TA said they were a great student, but I haven't really talked to them since their sophomore year. That's not a very helpful letter. So these are things that you want to really foster early. Now is a great time if you're wanting to apply for our program or another program. It can be daunting to jump in, especially if you are a student who has large classes, to just go up there and have that conversation. But I would say just do it. Put yourself in that space. Let yourself have a conversation with the professor. Schedule something for office hours and just introduce yourself. Okay, you probably don't lead with the idea that I want a letter of recommendation. What's a better way to lead is to go and talk about something that the professor researches, or a topic that was in class that you're really excited about, or that you have questions about, or that you don't understand. So you go in with a kind of a substantive approach, because that's going to get them to know you. What are their interests? Like, how do they look at the world? How do they think about problems? Those are the things that you want to focus on in your interactions with faculty. It's really important, if you want a good letter, even if you know this faculty really, really well, if you ask them at the last minute, there's just no way they can take the time to do it. So give them lots of lead time for your letter writers. You can help them as much as you can. Give them usually a 1 month's notice before the due date. So factors to consider when picking your letter writers. Professors you have taken, if you've taken at least 2 classes or worked with them. I was not good until my very senior year when I wanted to start applying to grad school. And so I didn't actually foster my relationship with my professors enough. And I did struggle to get some good letters, even though they knew me. So go ahead and do this. Professors you've taken classes with, or you should know well, they should know you well enough to give the admissions committee a strong sense of who you are. We welcome letters from both academics and professionals, and let your reference writers know if you get in. Thank them, right? That relationship doesn't go away. And we appreciate it. We think it's awesome, right? If we take the time to write a letter, we would really like to know, even if you get in, or if you take a different path. I just like to know those things. Planning and other professional experience. That comes through in your application. It shows some knowledge of the field. I would say it's not required. But if you did have an internship, and I call it other professional experience because it could be working with the community group, it could be volunteering, but those things tell us a lot about who you are and what your commitments are. And we know you learned something in doing it, so we can see that this helps really round out your kind of preparation for graduate school. It demonstrates energy, initiative, and it does not have to be paid. And for your statement of purpose, right, there's 2 pieces of writing that we require all students to submit. One is the statement of purpose, and when you go to our webpage under admissions, you see a description of kind of what we encourage in the statement of purpose, what we encourage in the personal history, as well as graduate division. Gives a little bit of guidance on these things. So I want to talk about each of them and kind of how we see what's useful to put in them. The statement of purpose, it focuses on largely academic, professional, and/or research experiences and interests. We review the statement to evaluate your preparation for a professional planning degree program. It should include information on things such as your academic plans and research interests, relevant experiences, future career goals, why the UCI MURP program would be a good fit for you. Just go ahead and spell it out. And you've thought about it a lot, and tell us why you think it would be a good fit. I'm gonna loop back to suggestions for statements, but first if these are the things we're asking to go into the personal statement, in terms of personal history, that other piece of writing, here's what we encourage you to put in there. You can focus on your personal background, include information on your life experience and history, which motivates your personal and professional goals. And we welcome information on you, on how you have or will contribute to diversity, equity, and inclusion within our program and the planning profession. So you can share some of the values, some values that you bring to the program, but also what you would like to do, or what the different groups you want to work with in order to promote these different areas. That's really useful for us. So tips in general for writing either one of these statements. One would be provide specific details. So details of your day-to-day job or your activist experience, that would be really helpful. Describe specific duties and events. Was it part-time or full-time? Was it for a month or a year? List the outcomes of activities. And it's also not just the outcomes in terms of what happened with the organization, but in your in the world or in your personal development, right? So what happened out of this experience, the volunteer experience, but also did it change you? So on these statements, it's really important from you move away from writing just a description of everything on what would be on your resume. You know, but it's not really useful. What is useful is to take the experiences that might be on your resume and to tell a story, to really craft a story about you in order for us to basically get a sense of who you are and why you're applying at the end of your letter. Like you got, okay, I get this person. I really know kind of the things they bring, some of their experiences. I can see how they fit it all together and what I could see they're on the trajectory. This is a good trajectory for them. It makes a lot of sense that they would come to this program. Something to remember, and it might be in there somewhere, is that you don't have to know everything. You realize that you're going to school to get skills, to get knowledge. So you don't have to come here as the expert in your statements. But you're really building a story about why you're interested in planning, maybe which aspect of planning. You don't even have to know exactly which aspect of planning. You could say, I'm excited to learn more about, you could say transportation planning, environmental planning, or affordable housing. You can narrow it down later. In your statement, you just tell us what you're motivated to learn about. What are some of your goals in general? You don't have to know it all. But it's really about us just kind of seeing and knowing something about you. Provide specific details also around work experiences, and it's helpful. If it's unpaid or volunteering, that's okay. You could talk about the content of a particular course, right, when you're telling the story about yourself. If I have a course in my statement when I was applying for the master's program, which really changed my worldview. And it was a course, I had never been in an urban planning course, and this professor, Peter Ward, it was a huge lecture hall. I actually never went to office hours, and so that was bad on my part. I really should have, and I could have gotten a letter of recommendation, hopefully, if you liked me out of that. But I sat in the class, I was an observer, but it really was about Mexico City, and it went through the different aspects of planning and showed just all the integrative thinking that it takes in order to think about a city and the place and planning. So that's what I would write about there. When they're talking about how did it change your perspective, there was a course, and it's just not just that I know what planning includes. It's environmental, it's technical analysis, it's that. That's really boring and drawing. But I could tell how it transformed my thinking. I'm like, even if I didn't know what I wanted to do after that class, that was my spark. Right, and that's the spark that I want to carry forward in learning about what a profession could be in planning. So how did the things listed that you're talking about, what was the experience? And at the end of each one, give a takeaway about how it shaped you and what you want to do. You could also talk about a dilemma, a personal challenge, whether that be on campus academically, or in your family, or in your community. It could be at an early age of life. It could be last year or last week. But what is a dilemma that you faced? How have you dealt with it? How did it affect you or change you? And how you deal with it, how people deal with it differently as a result of a graduate school experience? Or how would you deal with it differently? So how did it shape you, right? What are some challenges? It's not required. We're not going to be checking off a box. Did you talk about a dilemma? It's not like that. But if there is something that shaped you in your life, you can feel free to talk about that. So some more tips, suggestions on writing your statements. Link details to your plan for graduate work. So show some motivations. What motivates you to move to graduate school? So if you did volunteering with the homeless population, and that's really going to inform some of the strategies for affordable housing or having an equitable type of shelter policy in Orange County, that would be a connection between your experience volunteering and a goal you have, and why graduate school would help you achieve that goal. Make details relevant to your career trajectory. In example one, you grew up in a single parent family, perhaps. Relate that to your motivation to study rental housing discrimination. Or another example would be you worked in a canning factory or a coffee shop. That's pretty standard stuff. Relate it to your interest in project management and conflict resolution, right? Really think about what were you involved in and what did you take away from that? Assume an intelligent reader. Faculty will be reading your statement, so there's no need to spend a paragraph telling us about international development, perhaps in your home country. So we don't need a textbook. We don't need to be introduced to terminology. You can talk about problems in general, but from your experience and how you see it and how you view it and how it shaped you. But you don't need to write a paragraph that you could take from one of your term papers as an undergrad and try to teach us something. So don't waste the space, right? Really focus on you and letting us know about you, how those places or the experiences shaped you. So we have a pretty good sense of the area that you'll be writing about or you want to study in. Explain your areas of interest in a succinct way. Yes, share some specifics of your experience, but know that the readers will understand how important the work was to you. Make sure that's clear. You don't have to tell them too many times. Right? You don't have to be too repetitive, so really go through it and make sure you're not repeating too much. Your statement can be subtle. If you have good letters, the letters tend to brag. So that's going to be, so you write it confidently, but you don't, let your letters brag. I think that's the best way of saying it. Balance, experience, opinion, and a desire to learn. So it's striking a balance, right? Show interest and experience in the field, provide opinions about specific topics, but also share your need and willingness to learn more. Just wanting a credential is not enough to be successful in graduate school, right? So we have to know about your motivations. Planning programs have different emphasis, and so admissions committees want to see that you are a good fit. We certainly do with our program. We don't want unhappy students, and we want to make sure that we're fulfilling a need and that we're a good fit. So that's part of our job as an admissions committee. So that's when you're telling us why this is a good program for you. You make our job easy. Like, not only do we think you're going to be a good fit because we're hearing about your experience, and then usually at the end, you know, really even showing about what you're excited about in the program or what you want to learn more about in the program, or faculty that you reviewed their profile. We actually read these things and think about it. I'm like, oh yeah, they already did the research. They know that this professor, that's the person to go to for sustainability, global sustainability. Like, it's nice. They took the time. It's not like you had a template statement and you just sent it, right? That we know that you took some time to really think about our program and that you might be a good fit. Not just that you're applying to 30 programs. That's it, about ours. Also, you can, here we go, name particular faculty. Also, you could state particular areas of planning that are interesting to you and why. Keep it short, so make the key points stand out. Don't write a novel or your life story. I mean, I know there is a word limit, but I think you know you have to really use each word, each line strategically. Be direct. Some important questions to answer. Why are you interested in graduate studies? Some of these are recapping what I was mentioning earlier, but they're all right here in this list. So tell the admissions committee directly why you're interested. Something you have always, maybe it's something you've always wanted to do. Maybe your parents or others were role models in this area or a related area. So I remember a student application. I knew her as an undergrad. Her mom was an architect, and she wanted to do the planning side, but she talked about that, you know, growing up and having a mom with a professional degree in design. Maybe you have recently been excited by a new possibility of learning. Faculty want to know that you are truly interested for a legitimate reason. So why are you applying to this particular program? For a particular emphasis, specialty, maybe an orientation? Are there professors with whom you want to study because of the areas of expertise? Faculty will be able to tell you have thought out seriously about the program, and it shows that you did your homework. A good early sign that you're going to be serious about the student. You're really going to apply yourself if you take the time to learn about our program. So also let us know what is special about you. Explain your motivations and your career goals. This distinguishes you and makes you memorable. Your application will stand out. Explain your academic background, your performance. If you wrote a thesis, briefly explain what you learned, right? Part of that story. Mention any prizes that you may have won. That shows that other people are recognizing, you know, that your hard work, your skills. What about you is special? If you worked, tell why, especially if it's for a faculty member. Describe special experiences related to a proposed field of study. Maybe you traveled abroad, your employment in a certain field. Describe experiences that demonstrate your creativity, dependability, independence. Right? This is a long list, but these are going to give you some great ideas when you sit down to think about it. Use these as brainstorming prompts when you're writing your statement. Are there items that need special explanation? So we already reviewed grades and transcripts and scores, recommendations. Explain any gaps in your study. Maybe you took a break to support family, etc. That tells a lot about you and your priorities. Maybe you changed majors. We can see it in your transcript, but you can also address it. You can address why you changed majors. Maybe there was something that wasn't working, or you you had something that really motivated you to make that change. Are there items that need explanation, such as if your GPA is low? As I mentioned, you can briefly explain if there was a particular challenge for your grades improved in recent years. So on the one hand, I gave an example of how you can explain a low period in the early years, but you could also really tout the fact, and you're proud of the fact that in your last year, your planning related courses, you had an average grade of or an average GPA of, and that's okay to briefly state too. To kind of, there's different ways to phrase it, but you can, this idea of an upward trajectory, that this period reflects your strongest academic work and show that you're ready for professional programs. Unexplained voids could make you less as an attractive candidate. So if we don't understand the patterns, there's just kind of question marks that come in our mind as admission committee. And so you want to eliminate as many of the question marks as possible. That we just want to have a solid sense of this person. Honest explanations actually make you human. That's how we see it. Also, do you add diversity to the program? We promote inclusive excellence and diverse representation to enhance planning, education, and professional practice, as well as if you're a woman, a member of a minority group, a person with a disability, or have any distinguishing characteristics that may be relevant, that might influence your motivations, you can reference those in an appropriate way. So it's okay to talk about these aspects. It helps us know a well-rounded person and to get a sense of who you are. Perhaps your background, in part, motivates you to pursue a degree. What to avoid? Do not be overly formal. So you want to be direct and respectful in tone and avoid inappropriate behavior. I think sometimes if students submit what looks like the first draft, sometimes their nervousness, they'll use maybe not more formal language or something to be more casual, right? And that says, well, they're not presenting themselves in a professional way. You want to be accessible. But there's been some times where we see some stuff like, oh, that doesn't really go in a statement of purpose, but it tells us that this person may not be very careful in how they present themselves. That's how we would look at that. But you can be direct and respectful in tone. Do not include irrelevant information. Discuss only those academic pursuits, hobbies, or outside interests that have a clear connection to your pursuit of the degree. Right? That's part of the story. You don't want too many tangents. And every time you tell something, bring it back to the purpose of the statement. That you're really trying to tell a story and make this connection. I'm going to open it up to questions, but I do want to mention what you may already know, that on January 15th is the deadline for priority fellowship consideration. And you're already here, you're already thinking about this. If you want to do it, you want to hit that deadline. And that's where our automatic kind of process of evaluating applicants for fellowships would kick in. We will have rolling admissions after that date, but that's really the mark you want to hit. Early March, we'll have an admitted students welcome event, which is great because you not only get to meet more of the faculty, you get to meet current students, alumni. It gives you an opportunity, if you're admitted, to really think about, is this a place that you want to spend the next 2 years, right? And what are the opportunities? What does it look like? As well as by April 15th, that's the national deadline for a statement of intent to register. We call it SIR. But that's when you say, I plan to attend your program, whether it's this program or any other. And as I said in the beginning, we want you to find out what works good for you. And I know you're here to kind of gather information, to think about this as a possibility. But I also definitely want to now open it up. I've covered a lot of ground. I'm trying to really give you as much information as a resource, which is going to be posted online in the video format, as well as, and that's where you can see the slides, where you can get a sense of these as a guide. But questions?
One from our online folks. So we actually had about 8 to 9 people. It's really great. So we have a question. We're hearing a lot about Orange County and how UCI's program is helpful for those specifically there. So this student is in LA. He's heard your program is excellent and would like to take my education up here. Can you speak to the same connections and opportunities in LA as in Orange County?
Sure, that's a great question. You think everyone heard it online? I'm not sure. So it's thinking about the opportunities for graduate education and connections and networking in LA, like as I've described it in Orange County. So I would start with, there's a lot of great programs in the region, and we're one of them. And I think we have a lot of unique things to offer. Certainly there's UCLA, USC, Cal Poly Pomona. And if everyone in the room or online, if you look at those, you really want to find the program that's the best fit for you. That said, we have some real strengths, and I mentioned something earlier, which does have to do with our we have greater access, I believe, to faculty, and that's what people tell us. It's not just my idea, is that our students say we get more time with faculty, which is great because we have a smaller cohort. USC and UCLA in particular have a large student body, as well as our ability to connect with alumni and professional development. Those are things that we do really, really well, and I've made the case that Orange County is a great place to work in diverse fields. But I have to say, all of those plugs for our program in Orange County, but a lot of our students do internships in LA, and sometimes commute together. I was talking to one of our second-year students who until now has been commuting from Boyle Heights, and that's where he grew up, and he wanted to stay living there, and now he actually is living on campus. But we have a lot of students that live and commute from LA County and down, as well as San Diego County and up. And people are able to make it work to the degree we can't. We do try to schedule kind of our core classes on some of the same days when possible, so that students don't have to come to campus 4 days a week or 5 days a week. You know, we really are trying to get them to be able to, with long commutes, come only like 2 days a week, if possible. Sometimes it's 3. And also for internships, that's another great benefit for internships when we're clustering classes, that students who do have a 20-hour-a-week internship can go have a time and blocks of time to schedule that. We do have networks of alums in other counties as well, San Diego, but also LA and the planning department working with the port and a variety of other places. So our alumni networks do extend up in that direction. So I'm hoping that helps answer the question a little bit.
And a reminder too, I think we even have some folks, at least there were some signed up from nationwide. One of the best things to remember about planning as a profession is the certification process, which is not required, but it's a nationwide. Most of the certifications that planners go, AICT, these certifications, these are all certifications that are national and not constrained to a state issue, right? You know, there are some fields like teaching and psychology where you're really stuck in the state where you got your professional degree because the credential then has you there. Or your
right.
license.
The degree is
not that way, and we do. While yes, we certainly have a concentration of Orange County people, alumni. We do have people all over the nation and all over the world, actually, as our alums.
Yes. More questions?
You have another.
Okay.
Is it okay to contact the faculty we are interested in working with at this time? I've read a few of their articles, but am not a current ECI student.
Yes, absolutely. And they are ready and waiting. We just talked about it a couple of days ago when we met as a faculty, that we're excited about this round of recruitment and we want to directly connect. So absolutely, reach out, introduce yourself, any of you listening or here, and feel free to let them know your thoughts. They may have some insights about the type of program we have or what you might learn if you come here. So we would welcome that for sure. So it's time. If you want to do that, feel free to go right ahead. Yes, question in the room.
Do students usually have the opportunity to be TAs or teachers?
Yes. Let me give you a little bit more context. And so in terms of graduate research opportunities, the way it happens with our master's students is that there's a lot of self-initiative. So once you get to know a faculty member, it depends on which grant they may or may not have, if they have funding to hire. And so there are cases in which MURP students are hired to work on the research of a faculty member. So it does vary year by year depending on the grant. I would say it doesn't happen a lot. It's not the most expensive type of support. Just kind of let you know, many times on faculty grants, doctoral students are already kind of built into the budget. So in some cases, MURP students can be hired, but it's also within the context of our larger doctoral programs as well. But yes, I've seen some MURP students have some really exciting and interesting experiences working with faculty on research, but it does take student initiative. In terms of TA-ships, there are occasions within our MURP program where especially second-year students who kind of already have the core can come as a part-time, a TA or a reader for courses. So a second-year student would be a reader for mainly a first-year course if they did really well, if the professor connected with them. So there's those opportunities, but thinking about our larger school overall, part of our program, our recruitment at the doctoral student level is that those are the main source of TAs for most campus classes, if that helps at all. So TAs, GSRs, it's not a huge level of support for the average MURP student, if that helps. But I wanted to give you a little bit more of the kind of the campus school context, because that kind of matters in terms of why that happens. If that helps. Yeah, our students are kind of thinking, that prompted me to think about work opportunities. Our students are very successful, depending on personal initiative, about getting internships, and many times those are paid. And students start sometimes early in their first year, and that's what I would encourage, is that over a 2-year period, you can use internship opportunities in order to try out planning, right? Work for a nonprofit, maybe do an internship in a private firm, maybe in a city, and then you kind of get a sense of the field in general, but what kind of work do you do in these different types of sectors? You know, where do you want to spend your time in the future at the end of the program, at the career fair, right in the spring? Who do you want to talk to? Which tables are going to be your priorities? So I would say probably more MURP students are doing internships that would be paid than being TAs or GSRs, or graduate student researchers, if that helps.
Is there a particular office or help people with it? I know they said it's self-initiative, but it's database.
So I need to say Janet Gallagher is here also. And so she's our program coordinator. She's like the go-to staff person for current MURP students. So, and Janet's also, I'll just say, your resource for application details. You can reach out to her about any concerns or clarifications on what I've been saying, or if something's confusing on the website. She's a great support for that, or to help you get the answer that you need. And so the way it works is, I think that half or more of our MURP students get internships through referrals through each other or postings. And a lot of those postings come directly, right, through the alumni connections directly to our students, as well as our alumni, the folks who have had our internships before. When they have something, they send it to Janet, and it immediately goes out to all of our master's students. So that's the way that it's been working really well. So it's not so much that we don't have a placement program where students, say, would submit their resume to a staff person and then would line them up with an internship, because we haven't really needed that so far. We're seeing a lot of success with what the system we have now, if that helps. Okay, good. Thank you. Yes, question.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the internship program that you mentioned?
Sure, it's really exciting.
You want to repeat it? That one might not have been heard on the.
The question is, can I speak a little bit more about the mentorship program? So it is run by our alumni group on campus, who are officially connected with UCI as the representative of our program. And they're a really awesome group. And the way I say that is that they're motivated, right? They're giving their time to come back and contribute to our program, because when they were a student, the alum contributed to their mentorship and education, and so now they really want to give back. So in that sense, everything is framed in very much, we're here for you, we are your network, and we want to help you learn the profession. So that's the complete context. And so what happens is, in the fall quarter, the alumni group have a mentorship chair, and so in this case, he is reaching out, especially for our first year MURP students, to come to a mixer. That after everybody gets settled, let everyone get settled in the program for a few weeks with classes and moving or whatever it entails. So usually it's in October, 3rd or 4th week maybe of class. There's a mixer, and so they host a mixer. The students who have applied come, and a room full of alumni come from all different types of sectors. Some just graduated last year, some have been in the field 20 years, 25 years. So it's a variety of different types of people in their career, as well as a variety of different types of planning. And some of them have had 3 or 4 different jobs, you know. And what happens is, it's a mixer. It's a kind of a matching game where students list the mentors that they are so excited about they want to work with, and maybe 2 or 3 priorities of people they want to work with, and the mentors list the folks that they would like to connect with. And so, you know, it works. It works where the chair of the program and works with some of the other volunteers to kind of do the matching. And so there's the connection made. They have a few events over the course of the year that brings everybody together as a group. And that's really nice because it's all geared towards skill building and professional development. So there's additional programs that gather. But then it's also between the mentor and the student matched with that mentor to make connection. Oh, yeah, mentorship about resume writing, networking, like if you're going into this field, here's what you got to look out for, or here's what you need to know about, or if you're going for a job, these are the two best firms. No, kind of some inside knowledge. And so that's over the course of the year. And there's an end of the year kind of mentorship event / celebration where everybody kind of comes back. So you have one mentor, but you're also able to network with a lot of different people, and you kind of know the field and some of the networks. Yeah, I hope that helps. And the mentors come from all over. You know, some in Irvine, some Orange County, but they could come from LA, a variety of different places.
Yeah, they offer some remote experts.
Oh, yes.
We have some people who live in the Bay Area or whatnot, but still want to be mentors. So they offer remote mentoring, meeting up with people by Skype or phone calls.
Yeah, so there's a few different models that people wanted, and they've built into the program, if that helps at all. And those are things that you can continue, the connections you continue to build on when you're looking for internships in your second year, or you just need some advice. Maybe your mentor is the person, or maybe you know this other person you met at the mixer who wasn't your mentor, but you're like, oh, I really should talk to them. This is what I want to do, and I don't know how. So, and they're generous. They're generous, busy group of people, really engaged, but also generous with their time for our students. They're a priority. If that helps.
Another question.
Okay.
Can you give a little more insight on the study abroad program? Is there an application process?
Yeah, so I was describing the NURIS program. There is an application process. Janet, make sure I'm getting this right. I think it's in the spring, or is it?
He has an information session.
Yes, so Professor Bolin, Scott Bolin, is in charge of the coordinator, our campus coordinator of the NURIS program. And what are some places that students have been placed recently?
Well, it's either in Berlin, Germany, the Netherlands, London, or Vienna.
So, yeah, right. Berlin, in Germany, and the Netherlands.
Berlin, the Netherlands, and Vienna.
And so those are the universities where our students would be have an option to go and study there for the quarter. They are lined up with the faculty there as kind of their mentor. They would be doing some research along with the faculty in an area they're interested in, and they build that into their capstone project when they come back, is that they're actually doing the international research is kind of the site of the research. Sometimes when they come back, they do like a U.S. comparison study with what they found in the Netherlands. So it's a different way to craft how to build in the NURIS international experience into your capstone, but it's built into the program in that way. So not only are you getting this great experience, but we try to integrate it so that you don't feel behind when you return. And so it's the NURIS program. And so if you look on the webpage and look up Scott Boland, who is the faculty mentor, you can learn some more. But yes, there's an application process. Yeah. Generally funding, right, so that it gets students there and help them live, right? So it pays for some of the travel and the living expenses so that it's not a burden to go live there. Yeah, question. Any more? Well, I hope it's also clear that feel free to reach out to me via email. I can, if you contact me via email, our contacts are here. That's me. Houston, Houston at uci.edu. I'm happy to make an appointment or to tell you what my office hours. And maybe it's not today, you're not ready, but loop back and let me know if this is something that you're going to be thinking about and you want to talk some more about maybe your specific application or feedback on your ideas or something like that. Definitely, if you're applying to our program or any other program, meet your professors in office hours if you haven't already, and let them get to know you, because those are the folks that will be able to support you in your application.
Doug, I was going to add the letters of reference too, especially for people who've been out of school for a while. I know maybe that doesn't have too many of you in the room, but you mentioned that both academic and professional letters are accepted, and especially for those of you who aren't just coming straight out of college, professional letters are great. That we are happy to have those. and they may even be, you may not even be able to get an academic letter from 15 years ago. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. It's not an official requirement. If you have somebody that you're still in contact with that can get, remembers you or whatnot, but
Yes.
you know.
If you have, there's one but on that, is yes, so professional, I would say if your letters are primarily professional, try to get a variety of letters that kind of speak to the different sides of you or people who've seen you in different capacities. That's really helpful. And we are looking for not only commitment, reliability, professionalism, but just to think that this is the type of person who would thrive and do well in our program, that it's a good fit. It's kind of for the same motivation. The one but would be, if your GPA is low, an academic letter can be helpful information to help us get one more check that this person, although there was something with the GPA and the transcript, this person is going to be a good student because an academic professor is vouching for them and just saying positive things about them. So that's in a case when I would say strategically it's helpful to get an academic letter. There are certain cases, so like I said, grades, GPA is not the only criteria, but sometimes we will consider students with a lower GPA, and actually graduate division, before we can admit them into the university, will require at times with a low GPA a letter, an academic letter to kind of vouch for that side. We've had them come back to us and ask for that. So that's the one, but
Considered a low GPA.
Well,
yes.
the required for graduate school is 3.0.
Okay.
That's if it's below 3.0, graduate division is going to say you need an academic letter. So that's the one situation, and it's the campus-wide requirement at that stage. But above a 3.0, that would not be a big concern. But you just want to make sure that, yeah, if that helps. I hope that helps. And we really, part of the diversity in our program is we have students who are awesome and great, who come right from undergrad, but then sometimes people have 3 years, 10 years, 15 years experience, and that also brings in a lot of kind of diversity just in the range of experiences, life experiences to the classroom. So that's something we really value. Some people are scared to apply because they think they're too far from the academic world or they've been away for too long, and that's not the case in terms of how the admissions committee looks at that. Yes.
So speaking of being out of school for a while, any other general advice for non-traditional?
And how would we define, what do we think is non-traditional students?
So this particular person has been out of school for at least a decade and has been really doing other things.
Okay, that in that context?
Yes.
So I'll start in again with that. That could be a real value and a strength. It would be helpful to give us a hint, I would say, in the personal statements about his or her academic experience. So do build that in. So we want to envision this person as a student in some capacity. So we don't want the statements to only be about those professional experiences, but to the extent to which those 10 years of experiences are building their motivation for graduate school, we want to know about those. We want to know how they shaped and motivate this person's goals of the program. And we see that as a big strength. So it's not just academic strengths, the ability to be a strong student, but it's also professional motivation and goals, because we know if somebody's successful in several different initiatives and they've constructively used those to shape their goals, and this person is a driven person, they're going to be a great fit for our program. So I'm seeing it as a strength. Our admissions committee talks about that experience as a real strength in an application. But it would be nice, my caution is it would be nice to see them or to hear about the perspectives as a student in their prior degree, as well as kind of those experiences, maybe how they connect or don't connect. Good. Was that helpful, I hope? All right, good. I'm trying to give you an idea of how we look at our applicants when we get them. All right, I think that if there's no more online questions, I'll wrap up here. For those of you who are in the room, I will hang out. You should feel free to get some more pizza. To take it with you is okay too. And for any of you in person or virtual, feel free to reach out to me or the other faculty with any questions. Again, my email is on the slide that's up, houston@uci.edu. I'm right now the director of the MURP program, and would be happy to answer any questions. So thanks everyone for attending. Good luck no matter where you end up, but please consider applying to our MURP program. Thanks, you guys.
And again, you just talked a little about coming to the Capstone in the spring, but keep an eye on our events calendar. Things slow down a little bit as quarters draw to a close, but in the winter, we're hoping to have some events coming up, and anybody who's interested in the program is welcome to join. We had a great speaker. We have his brief from him. He's an embedded planner who works in LA County, but has a really interesting spin on how we should be doing planning. And that was a great speaker, and that's the kind of thing that y'all are welcome to watch our website and Facebook page for announcements of those things. And gives you an opportunity to meet current students and faculty.
Great. Thanks a lot. Enjoy the pizza and the rest of the day.
Anybody who, I think I've got everybody signed in.